أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise and glory and blessings are to Allah alone, the creator and sustainer of the universe. And peace and blessings be upon his Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon his companions and his family. May Allah gather us all together, inshallah, in Jannah. Ameen. So today, inshallah, ladies, first I'll offer a little bit of an ayah from Quran. Allah gave Musa alayhi salam a dua to go when he went to speak in front of Pharaoh. It's an excellent dua to make before you do any kind of public speaking, interfaith, dawah, or even in front of our own. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. We ask Allah to open our breasts, our hearts to His guidance, and to remove any sort of impediments or wrong sayings from our tongue, our speech, so that what we say will be clear and understood by those around us, inshallah. And of course, without Allah's help, where would we be? So this is a very practical way of using our Quran. And something I always talk about, ladies, is know your Quran, know your Quran, know your Quran in the language that you speak. Yes, learn Arabic to the best of your abilities, but know it in the language that you speak. It should be by your bed. It should be very well used. It should look like the pages are wrinkled, not just protected in a cover on a shelf high above. It looks like a book you pick up and you look for answers in it all the time. You look for verses. You look for this. You look for that. Very important that we use this book, because within it, subhanAllah, there is untold blessings, untold barakah for our lives, so many fine little points of guidance that we just don't think about. Islam is deen. It is a way of life. And it's not just about salah. It's not just about perfecting our salah, our wudu, our fasting, our things like that. We take halaqa after halaqa to learn these things. We take halaqa to study fiqh. We take halaqa to understand about a madhab. But there are things we do every day, all day long, that we are not paying attention to. Right? Little things we think insignificantly. We think of Islam like, okay, that's my prayer, that's my hijab, that's my fasting, that's my reading Quran. It must be within every facet of our lives, in every little minute, and that is the blessing of Islam. That is why it's so perfect, because there is something within the Quran and the example of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in every facet of our lives. This is how the Sahaba and the Sahabiyat, may Allah be pleased with all of them, were so great. They were highly disciplined, they were highly structured, they were organized, they were healthy, they were fit, they were trim, because they followed exactly all the guidance in the Quran. This is why they were great. This is why Islam could spread so quickly in such a short period of time. And now we sit decade after decade sluggishly as Muslims in the West, in our home countries, not doing what we need to do. If we are the Muslims that Allah said He created the best people of all humanity, that's because we are following the Quran by the letter, by the minute, by the second in our lives, even in the most random things. That's how we get to be those people that Allah said are the best of all creation. That's how we will bring people to Islam. That's how they brought all those Indonesians, all those Malaysians, all those countries that are 98% Muslim population, they brought by the character of the Muslims that came and traded there. Not by a beautiful verse in the Quran sometimes, not by how well they prayed or how well they fasted. They didn't see them doing those things. They saw people. They saw people that were smart. They saw people that were healthy. They saw people that were fit and trim. Honest, good people, kind, smart. This is what drew people to Islam, and this is what we need to be for the sake of ourselves, for the sake of our families, and for the sake of doing dawah in this country of non-Muslims. This is how we will come. This is how we will share the beauty of Islam and start to fix what is wrong with the Western world. And one of the big wrongs we have going for us right now is people are sick and getting sicker. We have, we have the most affluent society we've had in years, in centuries. But we are getting fatter, we are getting sicker, and where's it coming from? I mean, all of you, I want to see a show of hands. Who in your family has thyroid? diabetes, cancer, food allergies. Somebody's got this somewhere. I see so many of my friends come from overseas. They never had thyroid in their country. Now everybody comes here and they get thyroid, right? How many people have thyroid conditions in here? It's not, and you may have it and you don't realize it. It's becoming prevalent. There is a whole list of what they call autoimmune diseases. These are diseases that strike you like thyroid, arthritis, diabetes, and a host of other things. Gluten intolerance, we're seeing a lot of that. These are diseases that are striking people right and left, particularly in the Western countries, because the West is spreading eastward. We're seeing the countries back home, we're seeing people suffering from the same effects. Okay. Allah gives us the prescriptions how not to suffer from these things, but we're not following His prescriptions. But we're seeing this. What started me on this quest about having a healthier lifestyle was I just developed a whole host of autoimmune diseases. I have a list a mile long. And I'm somebody I feel like when I get up in the morning, I say to myself, how can I face Allah and say this is all I did in my life? I want to be able to face my Maker and say, I did this and 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 this. But if I'm sick, I can't do those things. So I said, I'm too young. I'm not all that young, but I'm too young to feel this way. I'm too young to have arthritis. I'm too young for it to slow me down. I got stuff to do. Whether you have a family to raise or you're more out there, you know, doing a lot of public stuff like me, we got stuff to do. And we need to be healthy in order to do that. And it's in some ways a simple way to fix, and in other ways it's not so simple. We're going to talk about that tonight. So there's a hadith that says a strong believer is more dear to Allah than a weak one. Obviously, right? He likes a strong believer. He loved the Sahaba. They worked hard. As I said, they were all these lovely characteristics of being strong and healthy and fit and all these things. In addition to being great believers, that's a more worthy believer to him than a weak one, right? And somebody's like, oh, I can't, right? So the same thing, a healthy believer, obviously, is going to be more dear to Allah than a sick one. You're worth more to Allah, you're worth more to your family, you're worth more to your community if you're healthy, right? And moms, I know this is a real important topic for moms because we consider ourselves the last one on the totem pole. The last one we think about is us, right? We're always concerned with our kids, our husbands, our parents. The last one we think about is us. But we're also the ones putting the food on the table, right? We're the ones who go out and buy the food. We're the ones who prepare it. So this is sort of in our hands to fix this. And Allah tells us what? So eat of the lawful and wholesome food that I provided. In other words, eat of what is lawful. We think, okay, halal zabiha, that's it. There's more to it than halal zabiha means. Allah says eat of what He created, what Allah created, not what some company like Kellogg's created. What Allah created that is wholesome and pure. In other words, organic. You want to use organic just as a generic term, not necessarily go to Whole Foods and buy food, but organic, meaning that it came from something that was alive. It came from the ground, it came from an animal, so forth. Allah tells us, eat of those things. And then the Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, no human ever filled a vessel worse than what? No human being ever fills a vessel worse than what? What's the worst thing a human being can fill? Your stomach. He told me that. The worst thing you can fill is your stomach. And you know, subhanAllah, how science proves the Quran true, and the Quran proves science true. You okay? You okay? No, are you okay? So the Prophet ﷺ said, there's nothing worse to fill than your stomach. And now we are hearing from medicine, from physicians, from the food industry, what's making us sick usually starts in our gut, in our stomach. They talk about leaky gut disease. They talk about problems with digestion of food. They talk about the autoimmune syndrome starting from the stomach. That we are somehow weakening the processing of digesting food by what we're putting in our stomach. So look at the wisdom we have from Allah. He says, eat of what I made that's lawful and wholesome and pure. And then the Prophet said, be careful what you put in your stomach. And we know the hadith, we should leave 1/3 for food, 1/3 liquid and 1/3 empty. Ya Allah. I don't know what an empty stomach is. Maybe in Ramadan I know. But I don't think I ever finish a meal where there's something empty. There's something left over. The prescription is there and we ignore it. We get up in the morning and okay, you get up, you pray, you're done with that. What's the next thought you have in your head? What am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to fix for breakfast? Then we go on to the day. What are we going to do for lunch? Maybe you work outside. What am I going to get for lunch? What am I going to take for lunch? What am I going to make my kids for lunch? Then it's supper time, blah, 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 blah. In Ramadan, it's all we think about is what we're going to eat when we break our fast. We're thinking about food all the time. But we're not looking at what Allah says. We do this all the time. How often do we eat during the day? Surely more than 3 times nowadays. And the problem, too, with the Western world, there's food all around us. There's Starbucks every corner. There's all these fast food places. There's restaurants galore. There's, yeah, so much. There's food everywhere. The grocery stores are mind-bogglingly full of food. Look at the shelf, 2 whole rows of cereal alone. Right. And it's all processed food. SubhanAllah. There's this great article. Go ahead. Oh, I have it on. Why do you answer your phone? I'm going to pull up my other glasses. And the problem, we're not eating what Allah says is lawful and wholesome, and of what He created. We're eating a whole lot of manufactured, processed food. If you go in a grocery store, people will tell you, shop the perimeters of your grocery store. In other words, go up past the bread, ignore the bread. Go up and eat the vegetables, buy from the vegetables, the produce, the veggies, the fruits, then hang over toward the meat, then go to the dairy, and then leave the store. Everything else is processed, manufactured food. Allah is telling us, eat of what I created. Allah created the plants, Allah created the vegetables, Allah created the animals for meat and the fish, and the animals that give us the dairy products and so forth. All those millions and millions of other aisles in the stores are what? Boxes of food, cans of food. It's all been somehow modified. Everything on all those many, many shelves in the store. Please, you want to come closer? I don't bite. Come closer. All those other products have been modified in some way. It's really scary. So already those foods are not sitting under the title of what's lawful and wholesome that Allah created for us. In an article from Juma magazine called Digesting Our Faith in the Future of Food, the author writes no less than 100 plus texts, verses, and a hadith directly enjoin, encourage, forbid, and forewarn us about our food and the eating of it. Over 100 verses talk about eat this kind of food, don't eat that kind of food, or hadith, right? Or warn us about it, like the warnings about alcohol. You know, when Allah first started to ban alcohol, He said there's some benefit in alcohol, and there's some harm, but the harm outweighs the benefit. So there's a warning, right? Then He goes on to say, one has to wonder why such strong associations, there are such strong associations between the abuse of food and damage to our relationship with God. So if there's 100 ayat and hadith talking about food, we have to wonder how important that is to us and how that's part of Ibadah to do what Allah asks us to do with the food. Then we look at our food today. We look at its procurement, how we get it, how we manufacture it, how we consume it, how we eat it. And we see just how divine and prophetic are Islam's elemental food injunctions. In other words, when we see how we get the food, how we manufacture it, how we eat it, we begin to see why Allah made those warnings. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the prophets' people didn't have this problem. They ate what was from the land. They ate their animals, they ate what grew in the land. They didn't have Wendy's, they didn't have Starbucks, they didn't have Kroger's. They just ate what was simply natural that Allah created. So they didn't have this problem, but we have it now. So what do? If we say, well, we go back and live like the prophet, well, it's very difficult to do nowadays. We can't have farms in the city. We can't even have chickens in our backyard. So what do? We have to find other ways that Muslims can solve this problem. He goes on to say, when in the history of humanity has man so recklessly and rapaciously intervened in the environment to such bad effect? In other words, when has he been so reckless with the environment and almost, in a way, evilly manipulating the environment to such negative effect? When has man claimed such superior right to modified food sources? And they all say, oh, in the name of, ending poverty. Well, poverty and starvation hasn't ended anywhere. We have fatter Americans and just as many starving people in other continents. So all this genetic modification of food is not really feeding more people. And who says man has the right to make this modifying the food sources from their natural state with huge contradiction? A man is poisoning the food to purify it. He is drugging it to decontaminate it. He is synthesizing it to make it grow more wholesomely. That's a good one. And denaturing it to make its perfection more naturally. Denaturing something is interesting. If you look at cereals, we all eat cereal, we feed it to our kids, and you'll say, oh, look, this cereal has all these great vitamins in it. Well, what they do, what Kellogg's does, is go and take a grain, completely strip everything out of it, any nutritional value whatsoever, and then add it back in to package it and say, oh, look, it has vitamin K and D and I and Q and P. And this is what's called denuding it. And then they repackage it a different way. It's no longer what Allah created. They've taken what Allah created, threw all the good stuff out, and put all this junk inside. And how many aisles of cereal we have? That's one example. And who's making a whole lot of money at this? Kellogg. A lot of money. So the contradiction comes from rampant pesticide spraying, hormone feeding, antibiotic medicating, and genetic altering food practices. So that's where the contradiction comes. For time out of mind before man was even a thing to be mentioned, the earth's plants and flora, the flowers, flourished lavishly and lush. Beautiful phrase. But thanks to the marriage of science, to the culture of corporate aggression, there's a lot of people making a lot of money. We've acquired more of a taste for transnational greediness than transcendent godliness, which is a fancy way of saying that, oh, it's mango season in India, I want to get me some of those, even though I live in the United States, so they ship them in, right? We're more worried about, I want my mangoes from India, rather than what have I got here in the States that Allah created me while I'm living here and I don't have to recklessly go somewhere else to get it. That's what they're saying. Somebody's making a lot of money to bring you whatever you want, anytime you want, at any time of the year, any time of the day. We seem far more concerned with our statements of profit than our profit statement. All right? And there's just a whole lot of people making money. The food industries, and you need to start reading labels, ladies, not just looking for halal, not just looking, oh, does it have pork in it? Does it have gelatin in it? Does it have alcohol in it? We need to be more savvy consumers than just those things. We're talking about halal and zabiha. There's more to it than just the meat at Sarah's Bakery, right? There's more to it. We need to start looking at, is all that other stuff I eat and feed my kids, is that really halal? Is it raised in a way that Allah created that animals be raised? Is it fed the kind of food that an animal that Allah created is supposed to be fed? Nowadays, everything is fed with corn. They found that corn is cheap. They've got this lovely way of genetically modifying corn so it grows like crazy. It's cheap, and they shove it in the cows. They shove it in the chickens. They've taught fish to eat it. And they say if you look inside a human being now, you'll find there's a large percentage of corn in him because he's eating all these animals. The cow eats too much corn. It's the wrong thing. He's supposed to eat grass. He gets sick. They give him antibiotics. The chickens eat corn. It makes them so fat they fall over and die because they're too heavy for their little legs. This is all called genetics modifying. It's not part of Islam. And we're faced with this constantly. Cattle are given feed that their bodies are not biologically designed to eat, right? And they're locked up in a barn. They're supposed to be out in the field grazing. They're locked up in a barn. They're eating this corn. They're not even doing what they're supposed to do. So then we have new strains of E. coli bacteria, and it makes Americans very sick. And we're finding that we're having extremely high rates of obesity because corn is also sweet. One of the worst things that's harming us is there's so much sugar in everything. There is sugar in all these processed and modified foods. There's sugar to make it taste yummy. There's sugar to make you want more, and there's sugar to make you keep buying it, so those people keep getting richer. There's a wonderful doctor in this community, Dr. Saadeh Ahmed. He's a natural doctor now, green crescent herbs and acupuncture. He used to be a chemist for Frito-Lay. And he was the guy responsible for making Frito-Lay chips taste like sour cream and onion, or like ranch dressing or barbecue flavor. And all of a sudden, as a practicing Muslim, it hit him one day. He said, you know, I'm making these chemicals, these flavors out of chemicals. They're not natural. There is no sour cream or onion in any of these potato chips. It's a chemical that we created to taste like that, or created to taste like a strawberry, or created to taste like barbecue flavoring. We are creating that. That's not from Allah. I can't do this. This is not part of my deen. So he left a very lucrative job, a well-paying job in Frito-Lay as a chemist, and went and studied natural medicine, and now he's helping people all over Dallas, Texas with his natural medicines and his acupuncture. But as a practicing Muslim, he said, this is wrong. This is not my deen. This is not what Allah and the Prophet tell me. So I have to make a lifestyle change. And he did. And he's a very popular doctor. You can hardly get in to see him anymore, mashallah. Everybody's going to him. He gives you good foods to eat, better foods to change your diet. He does acupuncture. He gives you, instead of over-the-counter medicine, he gives you herbal medicines. It's a lot healthier. That's an example, subhanAllah. But we're getting from all this sugar, and it's in everything. Another story. A friend of mine is married to a chef in a major restaurant up in Frisco. He used to work at Marriott Hotel. And he said, Sister Noor, everything I cook for Marriott Hotel, they told me you have to put sugar in it. Sugar's in everything. There's no reason we need all that sugar. And a lot of it's not natural sugar. There's natural sugar in fruits. There's natural sugar in carbohydrates. There's natural sugar in vegetables. But our palate gets so messed up from drinking Coca-Cola, from drinking those kinds of things, and from all the sugar that they sneak into the potato chips. They don't even have to label it. They can sneak that sugar in there well before the labeling process starts. And that's why we're so addicted to things. The food scientists figure out that if you put salt and fat and sugar together, you have hooked people forever. It's so hard, and all those things are making us sick. And if you're not sick now, and you're eating like this, you're eating sort of the typical American diet, even if you're trying to keep a halal house, Viha house, there's so many opportunities to get sick. And I've seen it too much, ladies, and it doesn't hit right away, but I think it'll start hitting your kids at a more younger age than you. But like I said, I have a whole host of these autoimmune things, and they're nasty. They're debilitating. But because I radically changed my diet and I radically changed my lifestyle, I'm getting better all the time, and I feel better than I have in 10 years, alhamdulillah, and yet I'm 10 years older. But like I said, I feel like I got all the work to do, so I have to be healthy. So, we've changed the way we've eaten more in the last 50 years than the previous 10,000. When we really think about it, the changes in this last century are mind-boggling. And you know, our young people, they go up to Starbucks. I go to Starbucks, I order a black coffee. They go up to Starbucks and they get a triple latte frappuccino, you know, which is corn syrup, flavoring, sweetened milk, I don't know what else. There's very little coffee if you look at those things. It's mostly sugar. It's like chocolate, and it's expensive. You know, that's another thing. It's killing our pockets. So I'm just trying to draw your awareness to these things, ladies, okay? A lot of people say, oh, I have to go on this diet. I've seen my friends go from diet to diet to diet to diet. They lose weight and they put on what they lost and more, right? We've all been on different diets. There's a million diets out there, which also tells you something's wrong. People are overweight. People are generally overweight. People call me all the time, you're too thin. I'm like, maybe this is how we're supposed to be. Seriously. My husband says to me, who's, you know, not that thin, but he says to me, maybe you're the one who's right, or maybe we're supposed to be thin. I mean, it's hard to imagine the prophet carrying along a belly, you know, along with some. They were physically fit and trim, and not just because they were hungry sometimes. But it's a lot of food, and it's a lot of bad food for us. And I know we're going to be short on time, so let me just jump to some things. When we look at, if we want to talk about how the kind of food we get, like looking for meat that's zabiha and halal, that's really halal, we have to look at how that meat is being raised, too, under what conditions. Is it being raised just like the Western meat, stuck in a barn, chained to a feeding trough all day long, not allowed to graze, not allowed to eat grass. Yes, it's slaughtered with the name of Allah, and it's slaughtered properly with a sharp knife, and the blood is drained out. But how that meat has been raised, has it been raised in a halal environment? These are things we have to ask ourselves, and as a community, as a group, we can start to insist and start to build farms and start to build communities where these things are available to us. They're out there, but you have to be a savvy shopper to find them, and you have to start being specific. You need to go to Sarah's bakery and say, where does your meat come from? How's that food being raised? These are things we need to do on a larger scale. But, contrast. What the animals are eating is not what they were created to eat. Where the animals live is not where they were created to live. They're slaughtered in Allah's name, but then what? Grass is the key to natural farming. Grass gets to benefit from the sun and rain naturally. You can start to find grass-fed meats and grass-fed chicken, but you have to look for it. And there's a whole beautiful scientific system when farming is done the right way. Right now we're kind of denuding our farms and our crops and our fields because they keep planting the same crops year after year after year, and eventually the soil doesn't feed that crop. They're supposed to do rotational farming, where it's corn one year and it's something else the next and something else the next. And because of mass production, we keep trying to keep planting the same things over and over and over again, and then our soil is not healthy. I live in Jordan half of the year, and I just pine away for the vegetables and the produce of Jordan. They get it down in the growing valley in the morning, and they truck it up to Amman, where I live, during the day, and it's so fresh. You walk into a vegetable market, and you smell everything. You smell the cilantro, you smell the melons, you smell the mint, you smell the cucumbers. It's fresh. You go to Kroger's, you don't smell anything. No. You pick up a tomato, and you buy a cantaloupe, there's nothing. Something should tell us something's wrong. I bring a melon home in Jordan, I put it in my kitchen, and my whole kitchen smells of melon. You know, unfortunately, it's tough. Ali ibn Abu Talib said in a hadith, there is no benefit in a people who eat that which they do not plant and wear which they do not weave. Ouch. Ay, ay, ay. Ouch. Ay, ay, ay. That's exactly ay, ay, ay. SubhanAllah. So ladies, so in addition, I'm sorry, we're label readers, but in addition to looking for the gelatin and looking for the pork and looking for the alcohol, you need to start looking for things like GMO, genetically modified foods. There are several countries who are saying no more genetically modified foods, no more Monsanto. That's a huge culprit. And unfortunately, all these big corporations sit at the table with Obama. This is what's really sad. The big food corporations like Monsanto, they sit at the table with him. The big drug companies, we go to Western doctors, and what do? They offer us a Band-Aid. They don't say stop eating that food. They say, oh, here, take this pill. Oh, here, take this antidepressant. Oh, here, take that. Here, take this thing that will cover up your pain. But it doesn't take care of what the problem is. It doesn't address the problem. So the people at Obama's table are Monsanto, and the prescription drug companies, and the medical associations, and the insurance companies. They're all kind of like in there together. We modify the food. It makes us sick. We go to the doctor. The doctor sends us to get medicine from Walgreens, and then we need insurance. It's beautiful. These guys are going like, yeah, man, we are making money. It's awful. You know, and as Muslims, we got to be smarter than all this. I know it's going to take work. It's going to be grassroots and stuff, but if we have this knowledge, and each one of you starts to work at what you eat and what you buy with a little bit more intelligence, a little bit more knowledge, it'll get better. Things like sugar is known as glucose, dextrose, high fructose corn syrup. If you see OSE, that usually means sugar. If you buy a box of anything, or a can of anything, you say, okay, I see, I see cornflakes, I see corn, I see, oh, it has very low sugar, look at that. And then you sell this dextrose, sucrose, corn syrup, you will see like 6 sugars sometimes on a packaged food. If you really start to know all the names that sugar can be hidden under, it's like, why do you think we're becoming diabetic? Diabetes is enormous. I have a dear little friend in Jordan. She's an American convert, and she is the cutest little thing, a little plump, blondie, blue-eyed, just like a doll. But she is a sugar junkie, and she went into a 3rd pregnancy. She got, not only she was diabetic too, she developed gestational diabetes. She went blind for a while, and they thought she might lose a leg. This is from liking sugar too much and not being able to be saying, this isn't right. Allah didn't intend me to eat this much sugar. And it's not just what you see, that white stuff, it's the stuff that's hidden too. Because unfortunately, the manufacturers of the processed foods know they want to make money and they want to addict you. And you can listen and you can look online, if you listen to NPR and you listen to a little bit more astute radio programs, television news, they will start to have people come on that tell you these things. This is what the food industry is doing. They don't care. They don't care if you get sick. They just want to make money. You know, our young people are hopelessly addicted to sodas. I always say soda is not a food group. Soda is not something Allah created. It's all chemicals. It's maybe water with a lot of corn syrup in it and flavor and coloring. That's not something Allah created. And Ramadan's like, no, absolutely not. Get that out of here. I just fasted. I'm going to stick that in my body. No way. And our kids, we are addicted. Well, I just have one Pepsi every day. That's, it's you're drinking chemicals. Okay? 3 of the bad things we said, the addictive ingredients, oil, sugar, salt. Oh, I still want potato chips. You know, I'm kind of whittling out some of those addictions of mine. I have sugar. I mean, I don't eat a lot of sugar, but I have huge sugar issues. Even a little sugar is very detrimental to my body. It's the one thing I can't quite get rid of because I can't stop eating sometimes desserts and things. It's really hard. I'm not saying it's easy. We're all addicted to certain things. We are addicted. And a lot of you are in better shape because you still kind of cook like back home. But it's very scary when you come here, when you go back home and you start to see the Western supermarkets come out and it's all these aisles of packaged box foods. It's really tough. And I grew up at a time in America, that's where everybody cooked. My mom cooked out of a box. She cooked out of a can. The only fresh food we had was meat, maybe salad, and when there was some fruit in the winter. Fruit was fruit cocktail out of a can in that heavy syrup, you know. But everything I ate was packaged. Then I had a career for a while as a singer. I was on the road. I ate on the road. I ate on the street. I ate running in and out of fast food restaurants. By the time I hit 40 and I had my son, I got so sick. It was just enough stress to knock me off my feet with all these autoimmune diseases. Because it was sitting in there just waiting for some stress trigger to hit it, and it went kaplooey, and I've been suffering from it ever since. But I'm trying to get smarter about it and reverse the cycle of all those bad years, which can be done. But it takes a little bit of work on our part. Sugar. Information about sugar. Sugar is addictive. Oh, yeah. Sugar makes you fat. We know that. Sugar keeps you from making healthy food choices. I notice with young people, if they drink a lot of soda, they don't have a taste for sweet, real sweet, like a watermelon or an apple. They'll go drink another Diet Dr. Pepper or a Pepsi. It kills the instinct and the taste buds that Allah gave you for the right and good thing. This is scary. Those modified food groups and phony foods kill your taste buds for what Allah created that's good and natural. It's like the shaitan's just in there. What can I do to these people? How can I get them? It's altering your future because it'll make you sick. I mean, diabetes is just wildly crazy disease right now. It's hitting so many people. It's keeping you hungry. How many people say they go to McDonald's and they come back an hour or two later they want more? Or you just supersized the meal and you feel like you can eat some more. Or you just got the 16-ounce big gulp drink and you feel like you can have another one. It makes you feel never satisfied. This is why the Prophet was able to say 1/3 food, 1/3 beverage, and 1/3 empty. They didn't have those addictive substances that say, I want more of that. You're like a junkie. Seriously. You know, we think, okay, heroin, alcohol. You can be food junkies too. Sugar is everywhere, as we said. It's hidden in things. You know, like the chef at the Marriott said, he had to put it in everything he made. All the sauces, the salad dressings. He had some way to sneak that sugar in there somewhere. And when you start to get off of it, you start to notice, like, sugar in that, sugar in that, sugar in that. Tough. Sugar feeds cancer. Hello? We're like, where is all this cancer coming from? Sugar accompanies other things you don't want in your body, like potato chips and fats and salt. Sugar is costing you money because you get sick and you go to the doctor and you pay the insurance company and you go to Walgreens and spend money there. Turns into belly fat. I mean, ladies, you don't have to go on a diet. You just have to eat sensibly and you'll lose weight. You'll be great, but you have to eat sensibly. Sugar makes you crave things. Sugar is sneaky. It hides in things, and it makes everything just taste so nice. I'm depressed, I'll have some sugar. I'm happy, I'll have some sugar. I didn't do so well the other day on that test, I'll have some sugar. I gotta get hyped up, I have a test tomorrow. Right? We do, you know. We're not happy, we're happy. We have, you know, I need a candy bar. I need a Snickers. Ruining your teeth, okay, that we need a long time ago. It has no real nutrition. Okay, carbohydrates, which has sugar, has nutrition. Potatoes, rice, pasta, that is nutrition for you. Vegetables that have starch, that's a natural sugar, that is nutrition for you. Fruits, natural nutrition, fruits and those kinds of things and vegetables actually break down the bad guys in your body. So the sugar by itself, that white stuff we like to get, Domino's, has no nutritional value. Why? Sugar withdrawal is real. Oh yeah, Allah tell me. Sugar withdrawal is very real, like caffeine. It gives you mood swings. You know, you take some sugar. I'm bad with coffee, and then I have to have something sweet to go with my coffee because I'm tired. I'm sluggish about 10 in the morning. I've been working since about 6. And I'm like, oh, I need a cup of coffee. And with the coffee, I need some sugar. And then about 12 o'clock, I'm like, ugh. I'm dying because the sugar rush has left me, and I'm crashing farther than I was before. So it gives you mood swings. It's our reward, right? Okay, I did good. I get some sugar. Doesn't help your skin. Hello, teenagers, right? Where's this acne coming from? Well, sugar and salt and fat. You don't really need it. You're sweet enough. And you know, we have this new disease called fibromyalgia, and women are all over the United States are starting to suffer from it. And it's usually one of those joint pain illnesses, but it becomes so debilitating for people that they do the worst thing they could do. They stay home and don't get out of bed because there's so much pain. The more you stay home, the more you stay in bed, the less you exercise, and the less you eat healthy because you feel bad so you can have more chocolate, the worse you get with this thing. And I have a lot of joint pain diseases like arthritis and carpal tunnel, and then I went in, and Jordan a couple of years ago, and said to the doctor, what's wrong with me? I feel awful. And he put me on the examining table. He squeezed here and here, and on my legs, and I about went through the ceiling. So much pain. I said, what is that? You don't have fibromyalgia. What is that? Fibro, meaning your nerves, and myalgia is pain. So you're having a lot of pain in your nerves, your joints and things. And I started researching about it, and people are just horribly sick. Women getting sicker, leaving their jobs. I had to stop work. I had to stop taking care of my family, all these things. I'm bedridden. I can't go out. I can't do this and that. And as the more I looked at it, I said, you know, it's our diet that's killing us, and then we're not exercising on top of it. That's the next step. You know, we're living in a society where we have to go everywhere by our car, so we're not getting out and moving the way Allah also created us to do. We sit a lot. You get up in the morning, if you go, you're a student, you go and sit at school for hours in a lecture. You come here, you go something good, you sit in a Halaqa. You know, we sit a lot, and we don't move. And Allah created us to move. And I notice as I get older, I start to get stiff. SubhanAllah, I start to feel stiff because I'm not moving. And if I get up and I move, I feel less stiff. I don't have the energy and the need to move the way I used to, but now I have to go out and seek exercise because if I sit still, I become like the Tin Man. And these poor ladies with fibromyalgia, they don't feel well, so they exercise less. The less they exercise, the worse they feel. So it's one of those contradictions that you have to kind of fight. You know, you need to eat the healthy foods and you need to move, ladies. It's really important. And I know it's a hassle for us as Muslim women because we don't have that many women-only exercise places. But there are more. I go to an aerobics club. Water aerobics is really good for me. And I found a pool that they're actually opening up classes on Friday nights for women who want to learn how to swim, but also for women with joint pains or any other pain. Moving in the water is amazing. The pool is only 4.5 feet deep, so you can't drown. It's not going to be over your head. And it's salt water, which is really good for your body. And there's a lot of stuff you can do in the water you can't do on land. So if you have issues with joint pain and those kinds of things, if you go to this water aquatics pool, it actually, you feel like $1 million. You feel like you're 16 again because you can do so much in the water. Plus, you're not having to lift weights. You're not having to do any weight bearing. Just pushing against the water is the same process as lifting weights or going to a gym and doing those kind of workouts. So it's a great workout, and now we've got all kinds of Islamic swimwear you can wear, and they are opening up classes for Muslim women where there are no men and not visible. And also, if you have a bikini, I go during the day. There's a couple old men in the class. I wear my bikini. I don't care, because I'm so covered compared to everybody else. But they actually came to me and said, "Where do you get that bathing suit? We want to start selling it in our swim shop, because we have women who are, maybe they're not Muslim, but they want to cover more when they swim. So Allahu Akbar. It's good to get out there in my little bikini, as strange as it used to look. Now they're getting used to me. But anyway, ladies, a lot of the information I took, there's a great book, kind of a long read, called Omnivore's Dilemma. An omnivore is someone who eats meat and eats vegetables, plants. And it's a great book. There's even an Omnivore's Dilemma for kids. You can start educating your kids about it. It's a great book. It's kind of long, but this guy goes through the history of food and starts to tell you what was good for us and what isn't good for us now. A super good movie to start with, you can get on Netflix for free, is Super Size Me. A guy goes off. You seen this one?
Yeah.
A guy goes off and he goes to eat at McDonald's 3 times a day. God help him. And not only does he eat there 3 times a day, he's supposed to supersize his meals. I think nowadays you could just go to McDonald's 3 times a day and you get as sick as this guy. But he has a team of doctors, watch him. And what's interesting is that after 2 weeks, of course, he's starting to get physically ill from the food he's eating. And they expected that. And even his doctors are telling him, you got to quit this, you're really going to get sick. What's interesting is after 3 weeks, not only is he physically ill, but his character changes. He was a very outgoing, positive, energetic kind of guy. And after 3 weeks of just eating that processed food at McDonald's, he has become sluggish, he's not happy, he doesn't want to move, he's yelling at his girlfriend. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He becomes so different. So that food is not only affecting us bodily, but it's affecting us physiologically, our mental states, and everything else. And I think we see it with our kids if they're eating a lot of junk food. We talk about all these diseases like ADD and things like that. Again, these are new things. Why are they there? I think it's the food we're eating. And I always say, you start with Super Size Me, if you can stand it. Go to Food Inc. Who's seen Food Inc.? Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Okay, some of you. It's on Netflix. It's free. Food Inc. is great. You have to really stomach what they'll show you about how they're processing our food. But it's so important to watch it. This is where I learned about what they're feeding animals, how badly it affects the animals, and how badly it affects us. You can go and watch it with your family. Your kids will love it. You'll be all grossed out.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.